Hi Y11 and welcome to your next coastal geography lesson. We are looking today at the other type of management of coasts, which is soft management or soft engineering. Last lesson you looked at hard engineering. So to begin with, let's just do a quick key term do now. Key terms from throughout this topic, and one in fact that goes back to a previous but very similar topic of rivers. So put the numbers 1 to 10 in your book and define these key terms, please. This should take 5 minutes to 10 minutes, depending how long it takes you to remember them. Pause the video now. Fantastic. Read through these answers then. I'll let you read through them all and make any corrections and changes you need to. Notice the one that I pointed out about the embankment. That is a hard engineering strategy from the rivers topic. Well done if you remember that. It's a man-made levee, or I guess put in simple terms, a little lump on the side of a river, a little mound that runs all the way along the rivers. What do? Well, they increase the capacity of a river channel to reduce the risk of flooding. Quite simple, isn't it? Engineering, you just build the land higher. You're going to come across an embankment later in this lesson again, so it's worth remembering that now, so that when we get to that, you'll understand it a little bit easier. Anyway, you make some corrections, check your answers, pause the video now. Fantastic. So title to write down, 3 objectives to read through. Should take 1 minute. All you need today is a pen. If you can't print, you'll need a ruler and a pencil as well to draw a table. So get yourself sorted, pause the video now. Okay, so soft engineering strategies. They work with the natural processes, erosion, transportation, deposition, to protect coastlines from erosion. The hard engineering, if you remember, they stopped natural processes, sea walls, rock armor, groins, all of them stopping waves, stopping longshore drift. In the case of groins, in this case, we work with nature. It's often seen as a more long-term, sustainable way of doing things. However, it is quite frankly less effective, which is why you still see so much hard engineering around. So copy that down and we'll move on. Pause the video now. So let's go through our strategies: beach nourishment and reprofiling. So beach nourishment is the photo at the top left, where you can see new sediment being poured and sprayed, in this case, onto the beach. Reprofiling is then what those diggers are doing in moving that sediment around and shaping it as they wish, deciding where should be steepest, where should be flattest, and moving it around. So as you can see from the boxes, sediment is transported to the beach. In the case of that boat, it's probably being dredged from under the sea. Sometimes it's removed from beaches in other places, but more often than not, it's from the sea because it has less of an impact there. The cost is dependent on distance and the amount needed, obviously. This can require quite a lot of work involving tractors when reprofiling the beach, but any damage caused in the process is compensated for once it's complete. So yeah, you can see, for example, in that photo, all that grass and that vegetation, well, that's going to be covered, but it'll regrow, it'll reseed, and it'll return to normal eventually. If you're thinking of disadvantages here, one that you might have already come across and thought about in your head is, well, if this coastline is being eroded, this new sediment will be eroded. Yeah, absolutely. So a disadvantage of this is the fact that you do need to come back and do it. And every time, obviously, it's costing the same amount of money again. So this is certainly something that you see a lot of. This is done a lot of in the UK, but it is over a long period of time very expensive. So sand dunes, we've come across those before, and you should be aware of how they're formed, but they act as a form of management, coastal management. Sand dunes are, in a similar way to things like seawalls and rock armor, they are barriers to protect what's behind them. So what can we do to regenerate them and improve them and make sure that they don't blow away, essentially, or get washed away? Well, fencing is part of it. It traps the sand as well as preventing people from walking over it. Now, why is that important? Well, it's the vegetation. When people walk over a sand dune and they start to trample the vegetation, it dies, and the roots of that vegetation therefore don't hold it together. So the sand is much more likely to get blown away. Also, in kicking and moving the sand around, it can actually lead to more and more wind erosion on that dune and it disappearing. So we've come across this before in sand dunes, the idea of marram grass. It can stabilize the dune as the roots hold it in place and stop the sand being blown away. So as you can see there, with all those little sort of tubes protecting the grass, this has all been planted So there's two things we can do to protect sand dunes: put in fencing and plant marram grass all over it in order to stabilize it and hold it together more. And our final type of soft engineering, managed retreat. This is where we retreat, we go backwards, but in a managed way. So if we start with the old beach has been cut through by humans and any hard engineering has been removed. So we've opened this coastline up to being eroded, and in fact, we've encouraged it in this case. The land has been allowed to flood, therefore you can hopefully see that quite clearly in the photo. New habitats such as salt marsh can be therefore created. So this is shallow, salty water now. Could turn into a salt marsh, a very fairly rare natural habitat, very, very important one for many coastal creatures. The flooded area acts as a buffer to protect the land behind and around it. That's the key bit of coastal defense here. This shallow land takes the energy out of the waves and it protects the land all around it. And here's that word from the Dunau: an embankment has been built around the area outside of the area to be flooded. So obviously what we don't want is land to be flooded that we want protected. So in the bottom left you can see what looks like a caravan park. That needs to be protected. That's encouraging tourism to this area and helping the economy. So we want to protect that. So the embankment is there to ensure that no further erosion happens. But you can see fields, what look like farmers' fields, have been sacrificed here. The idea being that they are fairly low value. In flooding those, yes, there's a food supply issue there if it's done a lot, but it's only small, and those farmers would have been compensated with money for the loss of those fields. Okay, I'd like you to watch this video. This particular one is on sand dune management, and answer those 6 questions, please. Answers coming on the next slide, so pause this video here and watch an answer. Okay, so answers, here we go. I'll let you read through those. Got nothing else to add to them. Check what you've written. If there's anything you've missed, here's your chance to jot it down. Pause the video now. A second video for you. This is on beach nourishment a little bit more. So once again, same as last time. Watch the video, answer those questions, and answers coming on the next slide. Pause the video now. Here are your answers. So once again, double check, add anything you're missing, and we'll move on. Pause the video now. Right, okay, the main bulk of work now to do this table. It'll be attached to the class chart so you can print it off, or you can copy it out. We have, just like last time, similar, recording the key information for each of these strategies: type of defense, describe, explain it, cost, advantages and disadvantages. Now you'll notice I've separated dune regeneration and dune fencing out. And the reason for that is because AQA actually do that themselves. Don't ask me why, because they're both incredibly similar. So for the dune regeneration, stick to the marram grass, and for the dune fencing, stick to the fencing, surprisingly enough. You can use the notes from this lesson so far and the textbook section, which will be coming up on the next 2 slides, as well as being attached. So you can either open the PDF or pause the next slide, or the next 2 slides, sorry, and use that information. I'll leave it up to you. But this whole table should be completed. And finally, on the 3rd slide, in 3 slides time, there'll be some answers which you can use to again check and go through. So pause this now, get everything you need ready there, and we shall get on with it. Okay, so hopefully you've completed that table now, and this is your chance to have a little look through this and see if there's anything missing, and you can add anything that is missing. If you didn't understand anything, well, I hope you've emailed your teacher, so or gone out of your way to try and find it out, but hopefully this might make some sense to you. So have a little read through this, get anything down you need to, and we'll move on to the final task, a little recap of the lesson in just a second. So pause this video and check now. Okay, so a little final quick test. Which 2 of these statements are false? Read through them all and just work out which are false. You don't need to write anything down for this. Pause the video now. So there we go, 2 answers that are wrong. Soft engineering is worse for the environment than hard. No, it's not. It works with the environment, with the natural processes, both in an aesthetic way, meaning to look at. It looks more natural. And it's also better for habitats and conservation of ecosystems and wildlife than hard engineering. And beach reprofiling is when the shape of the beach is flattened and lowered. I mean, it could be, but it's unlikely to be, seeing as we're trying to reduce the risk of erosion. So it's likely to be raised, maybe made more steep, something to take the energy out of the waves much more effectively. A low, flat beach is not going to do that. So there we go. That's the end of this lesson and the end of management. I say the end of management. Actually, next lesson we're going to look at an example of management. So at the end of learning new information about the types of management, next lesson we'll apply these to an example at Lyme Regis, which is just along the coastline from Swanage and that coastline we looked at previously. Anyway, there we go. Have a great day. Take care, and I shall speak to you soon. Goodbye.